Hi, everybody. This is Steve, Monday Chief Forecaster for Rowan County Weather. Got a very special guest with me that we're going to talk to in just a moment. I did want to go ahead and really talk about uh, what brought this on. As we know, this past Monday, we had a tornado warning here in the county. We also had severe weather. We had damaging winds, you name it, it was going on. Different folks were living out different things that were happening during that time. And my guest actually had her own ordeal she was going through that was also weather related. And we're going to be talking to her about that in just a moment. I did want to share some information, though, because the guest I'm going to be speaking with was actually struck by lightning during this storm, and she is here to tell her story. If we look back over the last 30 years and the averages, though, at different types of weather fatalities, the number one fatality out there is heat, which we are dealing with right now this weekend and really going into Monday. So keep that in mind. But as you go down the list, number two is flooding, which is self-explanatory with different kinds of hurricanes and things that affect areas along the coast that we don't have to deal with, but it's certainly one of the leading factors. And then as you start to move down, you get to tornadoes, and then our next one is lightning. 48 people a year over the last 30 years have been struck by lightning and killed. Now, much more than that actually get struck by lightning, but 48 of those folks each year don't get to come back and tell their story. Our guest today gets to do that, and we're going to be thrilled to talk to her in just a moment. Lightning safety, though, this is the part that I really wanted to focus on because of the fact that this did happen around the water based on the job this young lady was performing at the time. 64% of lightning fatalities result from outdoor recreation. A large portion of these are from water activities and sports. And as far as lightning safety goes, the safest place to remain is indoors and away from windows and electrical appliances. If you're out doing any kind of things outside, get inside your vehicle and remain there until the storm passes. Do not park along fence lines or near overhead electric phone lines. Avoid being the tallest object and stay away from other tall objects such as isolated trees. And if you can hear thunder, you're in danger of being struck by lightning. So always take shelter. That's why we say if you hear the roar, head indoors because lightning can strike you up to 10 to 20 miles outside of a storm. So certainly something to keep in mind. But I've got Brynnlee Steger here with me. Brynnlee, first of all, it is an honor to be talking to you. I'm so glad to have the opportunity to tell this story. We'll just start off. So how are you feeling? It's been several days since this happened. So how are you feeling at this point?
I definitely say that I'm getting used to, the side effects from everything, and my body's kind of just now starting to adapt, but I do feel good considering what happened, so I'm definitely grateful for that.
Absolutely. Now, Brynnlee, I understand from some of the things I've read, you're in school. You go to Carson High School, if I remember correctly, and you're in your is it junior year?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So outside of Carson, you obviously you're a lifeguard, and I don't know how many people tell you this, but I always tell folks that are first responders in the military or whatever, thank you for your service. So thank you for your service of being a lifeguard because that is a service that you certainly provide. Hopefully, you haven't had to depend on that service. In terms of the time you've been doing it and had to actually save anyone. But if you have, thank you. And if you haven't had to, thank you anyway for just being there to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely a job.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, you were struck by lightning this past Monday, and obviously, that's a first for you. And I know hopefully you won't have to go through it again. But before we get to that part, take me through your day. So you're working at the Landis pool, and I guess you're going in that afternoon. And what you understand, there's maybe some severe weather coming. So as you start to get your shift started at the pool, what's going through your mind in general?
Well, it was basically just a regular day. We weren't really that busy at first because of the weather forecast and stuff. So we didn't plan on having that many people, but then like it started to clear up. So we had a bunch of people come into the pool, and then we saw that there was like a tornado watch. So we obviously cleared it, and a bunch of our employees had left because they were trying to get home. And I actually was having my mom come get me from my sister's her school, and she came to get me, and it was just me and my boss and my mom and my little sister there.
Right.
And then like the sirens started going off in the town of Landis, so we obviously took shelter. Um, and then we didn't really see anything. So my boss, like, she had told us to go ahead and start cleaning up, closing the pool. That way, if anything were to happen, we'd be able to go home. And as soon as my mom pulled in, the bottom fell out. Like, it was just pouring down rain and thunder, lightning, everything. So we were like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and start. So my boss said, come on, let's go. We're gonna go get the umbrellas. So me and my mom went to one side of the picnic tables, and then my boss went to the other side of the deck. And I'm standing there unscrewing the bolt, and I'm bent down underneath the table, and thunder hit. It was the loudest thunder that I've ever heard in my life. So I jump and I go to turn around, and then I felt like my arm got blew off. So yeah, and then my mom, she starts screaming because she saw that mass and she was so confused as to what happened. And I start running, and then I fell because of the shock that it had sent me in. And my mom, I was screaming at her, telling her what had happened. And, she helped me get back up, and we darted into the concession room until the ambulance came and got me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that happen to you, but certainly I'm very thankful that you're here to tell the story of what happened. You said that the thunder was the loudest you've ever heard, and I'm sure you're aware. But for anyone watching that's not aware, thunder is the actual sound that comes from lightning. And so, with the
Mm.
lightning being inevitably that close to you, I'm sure it was extremely loud. Uh, so you're waiting on the ambulance to get there. You're inside. I saw some photographs you were on social media where they had you laying on the floor, and clearly you were going through some trauma at that point. I know you said your arm felt like it got blown off. Were you? Did you? Did you lose any feeling anywhere other than your arm? I mean, like, did you feel like your body was numb or anything like that? What was going on through your body at this point?
Well, while I was laid out on the floor, my whole, like, it wasn't just my arm. I knew my arm was the one that got struck, and obviously it was in a lot more pain than anything else, but my whole body was just like I couldn't move. Like, I was shaking, but like I couldn't willingly move my body because like I was like my nerves were so shot that I just didn't even know what to do. And my body was in pain, but I was focused on my arm because I knew that that was the part that took the most, um, took the most out of everything. So,
And took the brunt of the blow, so to speak. Ambulance gets there to pick you up. You're clearly on your way to the hospital. I take it you were at least alert and aware of what was going on through all this, because you're telling a really good you're giving great details of what has happened to this point. So you're on the way to the hospital. You get there, doctor comes in, and are they obviously they're concerned because you were struck by lightning, but what are they telling you in general? Are they giving you anything to be really concerned over? Are they being reassuring to you and letting all is going to be well? What's going on at this point?
yeah. So, actually, while I was in the ambulance, the EMTs had told me, they were like talking about my heart rate, which
Mhm.
was concerning to them because it was shot way up, and it would go up and then would go down, and then my oxygen levels were really low because I was hyperventilating. And at that point they had already hooked me up to EKGs, and they were watching everything, monitor my heart rate on a sheet. Um, and then I got unloaded off of the ambulance, and then they took me into the ER, and I sat there for a couple hours. And they were still monitoring me. They had me hooked up to IVs for fluids, and because I told them that I was really dizzy, which they expected, but none of them really knew what to do because they'd never had anybody in the hospital survive something like that. So they kind of were still in shock too.
Sure, absolutely. So you stayed in the hospital. Were you there overnight, or how long did they keep you at the hospital before you finally got to come home?
They kept me, I wanna say, right at around 27, 28 hours because they had to monitor my heart rate and make sure that I wasn't losing any more nerve damage and, seeing if anything started to feel better, but they gave me 2 rounds of physical therapy while I was there, and then they signed me up for outpatient therapy, so
Oh, okay, gotcha. And so, how obviously you've been home for a few days now. It seems like, and uh, have you been, you know, I don't want to, I don't want to make it sound weird, but have you been traumatized by this in the past few days? Like, have you gone to sleep and maybe had dreams and waking up, like trying to figure out if this has been real or anything like that? Or
I would say that I definitely do have PTSD from it.
sure,
Uh, yeah, which is expected,
yeah,
but it at first it was hard to even go to sleep because, my brain is like wide awake thinking like of all of the side effects and stuff that could
mm-hmm,
possibly happen with my arm. And I do still think about that, but this is something new that I'm just now starting to be able to adapt to with
mm-hmm,
just one variation of medicine. And in the hospital, they had me put on, fluids and everything. And now it's just kind of like, here's the gabapentin, take that. And, you know, I take it. But, last night it was my first time going out in public really since, everything had happened. So I went to my school for a football game and then I came home and my whole arm, like my fingers were swollen. Um, I was in pain a lot last night, but I did take my medicine and hopefully I will be able to see a doctor again soon because we just called and made an appointment. So we're going to figure out what's best to do.
right. I wouldn't be surprised. I've got a friend of mine who was in the forestry service about 20 years ago, and he was working out in the woods. Storm came up. He got struck by lightning. He's still alive to tell the story. And I remember one of the things he told me following that was that he's had people, he had people that reached out to him who were also lightning. They were struck by lightning and survived. And so, not sure if you've heard from anyone yet that's actually been that way, but I would not be surprised if you don't hear from someone that's been through this before, that that can share their experience with you. So, I did want to share that with you. So, the good news is it's no storms this weekend. But how do you think the next time storms are going to come around? I know it's probably too early to tell, but do you think this might be a fear for you, or do you think you can just push through it? Or
Um, well, personally, I would like to say that I would be okay during a
mm,
storm, but I definitely think that I'm gonna have some trauma built up.
sure.
So I you will not catch me outside. I will stay inside in my bed and not go anywhere. I won't move because a lot of people say that like once you get struck by lightning once, you're more prone to get struck again. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm not taking any chances. Hopefully, it's the first time and the last time.
Yeah, I hope so. I certainly, wouldn't want to have to talk to you again about this, but would be glad that you made it through a second time. But hopefully, you don't have to worry with that. Um, just wanted to ask you now too, with the fact that you've been through this. So, you just said that if a storm comes up, you're going to stay inside. Obviously, you were not outside per se of your own choosing, but you were performing a job and trying to get it wrapped up. Um, what's your advice to anyone who's watching this that you know when storms come up they may think, well, I'm going to go, stand out on my front porch and watch it storm, or I'm, because I that's one of the things I love to do. Or what's your advice for folks to like we say, if you hear the roar, go indoors. Any kind of advice you want to pass along?
Yeah. Well, actually, I used to like standing on my front porch when it was storming, but I can say now that it's definitely not worth it. Get inside and stay inside until everything's cleared up because you never know when something like that can happen to you. And it's not a lot of people don't look forward to something like that. Like it's unexpected just because of the rate of no like people that this actually happens to. And it's a very, very, very low chance that you're gonna survive something like this. And I'm very lucky that I did, but you don't always know how your body's gonna react and how bad it's gonna be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just from my perspective of covering weather as long as I have, I mean, I don't take it lightly to refer to you as a walking miracle. I mean, really, you were struck by lightning. You lived to tell it. I mean, you took a direct hit in many ways there, and I hope that folks certainly learn from this. The benefit of me being able to interview you here today is, my colleagues in news media and print media and all that, they unfortunately have so much space and time they're allotted. With me, it's unlimited time. So I know we've talked over a few things, but if there's anything we haven't talked about yet that you want to cover, I'm certainly opening the floor up for you, because, with me, you get unlimited time because I generally report to myself and no one else. So is there anything that we have left on the table that we haven't talked about, or have we covered everything from what you've experienced?
I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Well, Brynnlee, thank you so much for your time. I hope that you continue to recover well, and you certainly have a story to tell, and I hope it's one that folks heed and listen to. Again, I know your family is grateful that you're still around and with us. I, for one, am grateful, again, for the fact that you're a lifeguard, the fact that you're still around, and certainly look forward to seeing more of your story in the future. But I did want to thank you for joining me today.
Yes, thank you. We're definitely grateful for the way that it played out, but still be careful.
Absolutely. All right. Well, folks, thank you for watching. And as always, thank you for following Rowan County Weather. This is going to be posted on our social media pages. It's also going to be on our website and our YouTube channel. So if you have anyone that you want to share Brynnlee's story with and let them see and hear about what she experienced with this, certainly send them to any one of those platforms to check it out.